All right, we are back here. NFL halfway through the season, 9 weeks down. Joining me today who is becoming an analyst position here on the podcast, the NFL Midseason Report with FanSided's NFL Insider, Matt Verderame. Matt, how are you?
Doing great, Michael. How are you?
Doing pretty good. I just want to get your general take on the season as a whole. I mean, I've been watching the NFL since I was a kid, like in '98, my first season watching the league. I cannot remember a season more bizarre than this one.
Yeah, it's a year where there's a lot of mediocrity. Excuse me. I don't remember a year where you looked at the league as a whole and said there maybe are three teams that can win the Super Bowl, and then as you expand that and you say, okay, well, who could make a push and it wouldn't shock you? I mean, maybe you get to 7 total teams, 8 total teams. It is a year with a lot of bad quarterback play. It's a year with a lot of bad coaching. It's a year where you don't have that rookie influx that are really high impact guys at the quarterback position. And I think what you're left with is a league that is very top heavy with Buffalo, Philadelphia, and Kansas City. And then that underbelly, that second tier, which I think is going to really make the second half of the season interesting.
Yes, for sure. I think start with the 2 New York teams. I feel like they're trying to push for that second tier here. Start with the Jets, who pick up this huge win on Sunday against the Bills on the strength of the defense and the running game here. They're 6-3 now. They are firmly in the AFC playoff on trying to snap the longest playoff drought in the league. Like, I know they have quarterback questions. How good do you think this team actually is?
I think the Jets know exactly who they are, and that goes a long way toward being a good team. I see them a lot the same way I see the Titans. The Titans aren't flashy. They're not going to throw for 400 yards, or they're not going to do those things. But they can run the heck out of the ball. They're really physical. They're really good defensively. They're well coached. I think the Jets are similar. I think the Jets are. If the Jets are in the AFC South, they probably win it. I was very impressed by their win over Buffalo. They got down 14-3, and I thought to myself, "Oh, here it comes. Buffalo's just going to run them over." And the Jets hung tough. They didn't let the game get away from them. They made some plays. They forced a few turnovers. They didn't fall apart when Wilson lost that one fumble down in the red zone. I think the Jets, look, if you look at their schedule, 3 of their 8 games remaining are still at home. Jacksonville, Chicago, Detroit, got to win those games. Then can you get one of them on the road? It's not easy. Their road games are not games you look at and go, oh, that's an easy one. It's Minnesota, Seattle, and the 3 teams in the division. Can you win one of them? If they do that, they get to 10, they make the playoffs. I think the Jets have a real shot. And I'm very impressed by the way they've played this year.
Absolutely. I'm also been very impressed with how the Giants have played this year, too, because, I mean, they're coming off their bye. Yeah. They're 6-2 right now. And honestly, like, this team you watch, look at the roster as a whole and say, I don't get how they're doing it, because they have a good running game. They have some good defenders, but there's very talent deficient in certain areas. I think this is a case where I feel like coaching makes all the difference here. I feel like Brian Dable's got as much out of that roster as anybody possibly could in the league.
Yeah, I think right now Brian Dable to me is the coach of the year, and you can make an argument. Salah's in there, Sirianni's in there, O'Connell is in there, but Dable has turned that team around, and that team has been so bad culture-wise for years. To now be a team that's 6-2, coming off the bye, they're going to get the Texans at home. They should get to 7-2. I give Dave all the credit in the world. I think he did a great job with his hiring. I want to note with Dave, I'm going to write about this at some point, but a lot of these guys come in, they get their first job, and they don't hire anybody with a strong opinion on their side of the ball. Dable comes in as an offensive coach, hires Mike Kafka away from the Chiefs, quarterbacks coach, now the OC with the Giants. Kafka is widely regarded as a guy who's going to be a head coach. Dable had no problem bringing him in. He brings in a veteran defensive coordinator in Wink Martindale. Well, guess what? The defense is really good. And Martindale's a huge reason why, because they are not the most talented defense in the world. That is an example of coaching, of leadership, of vision. And I think the Giants are probably going to be a 10-win team or so. They're going to make playoffs in the NFC.
Yeah, for sure here. And right now, like, we've had only one undefeated team in the league since week 5. That's the Eagles right now. They're 8-0 on the season. They're trying to get to 9-0 this week here. I don't know if they're actually going undefeated. Like, how long they can keep this going without suffering a loss?
They won't go undefeated. But you know what? They could go a little while. They have They have a schedule that's really favorable. But they'll trip up. It's the NFL. They'll lose a game they shouldn't. They played Dallas on the road. That's a game they could certainly lose. They still have to play the Giants a couple times. They could lose a game there. I think Philly's going to win 14, 15 games. But they won't go undefeated. It's too hard. There's a reason that only one team in NFL history has ever done it. It's such a grind. And in today's NFL, it's such a more competitive game than it even was in the 70s when the Dolphins did it. I think Philly's terrific. I think they're for real. I don't buy into these people who think it's just because of a soft schedule. I think the Eagles are excellent, but I don't think that they're going to go out there and run the table. I would be pretty surprised.
Sticking with the division for a minute as well with the Cowboys here, I feel like if there's a team outside the top three that can make a big push here, I do think Dallas has it because that defense and their running game, and they have a capable quarterback here. What do you think about that team? I think they can stack up compared to the elites of the league.
Yeah, look, Dallas is a great pass rush, and that's a great equalizer in today's NFL with the way the game has gone. So, you look at the NFC and you see Philly, and then who else? Well, the Vikings are 7-1. Now, the Vikings are a team that I don't think you'll look at them and think that they're a one-loss team, but they are. The NFC South is terrible. The NFC West, I think the Niners are going to make a big push at some point. They're too talented. Limited quarterback, but so good around them. And they're another team. They know who they are. Seattle's been a fun story. I think Seattle's a playoff team. But I think in the NFC, the top two challengers for Philadelphia to deal with, to me, are Dallas and San Francisco.
Yeah, it makes some sense here. And you mentioned at the top here that we basically are consensus agreeing that the three best teams in the league are Buffalo, Kansas City, and Philadelphia here. Is there anybody below them that you feel like can really make a push to join that tier of being a true Super Bowl threat?
I think it's a group of teams. I put Dallas and San Francisco in there, like I just said. I put Baltimore in there. I put Cincinnati in there. I guess you have to say Minnesota. They're 7-1, but I think it's those teams. I think the Giants have done a great job. The Jets are doing a great job. I need to see those teams be able to sustain at the quarterback position. That to me is when you get in January, you got to beat the Mahomeses and the Allens of the world. The Chargers have Herbert, but they're so poorly coached and they're so beat up. I can't trust them. I should also throw in Miami. I forgot about Miami. Look, Tua is having a breakout year. They have a great offense. So they can't stop anybody. But offensively, they can score with anybody. I would have to throw them in as well.
That's for sure. And obviously, I feel like this year as a whole has been a lot of teams that we thought were going to be very good that have been very disappointing thus far. Who do you think has been the biggest letdown?
Yeah, look, you could take any of those big three out of the NFC, right? The Rams, the Bucks, the Packers. I have to say the Packers. The Packers have been awful. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl, and I remember really debating between them and Tampa. And I feel like now, both those teams stink. So I would say Green Bay. I think the other team you can make a case for in the AFC is Denver, who is just abominable. The Raiders are another team. There's no shortage of disappointments to pick from. I think the Packers, because I think they had the highest ceiling of all these teams, and they've fallen apart, though. They've got to be my choice.
Yeah, it's definitely a fair choice here. I want to touch on also here the Bucks, because obviously, their division is terrible. So, even with how bad they are, they probably can still make the postseason if they play well down the stretch here. But, is there any real upside to this team besides maybe winning a playoff game?
Yeah, I think that's probably it. Look, I think they'll win the division because the division is awful, and the conference is bad enough. Maybe they beat somebody in a playoff game, but they're not good. They're not contenders. They're not turning this around. Their offense is just a shell of what it's been. Defensively, I think the injury to Barrett is a killer. He's such a good player. Without him, they don't have that edge rush. They're not beating Philly in a playoff game. They're not beating the Niners. They're not beating the Cowboys. Maybe they get lucky if they got the Giants or something in a playoff game. Okay, maybe. But they're a shell of what they once were. I think it's time for a pretty big retooling for an older team.
Yeah, part of me watching that team is wonders if Tom Brady regrets this point coming back because he has looked like he stayed 1 year too long.
Yeah, you never know what somebody's thinking, right? But I think there's got to be the thought process of, was this the right decision? And everybody knows at this point. I mean, he wanted to go to Miami. That's been out there. That's been reported. That's fact. He wanted to go to the Dolphins. You can see why. The Dolphins are a really interesting team. Tampa Bay is old and tired and out of sync. I know it's Brady, so you never want to totally count him out, but it feels like the Buccaneers have just run their course.
Yeah, I feel like with the Rams, also you mentioned them a second ago here, is the biggest thing with them really just the offensive line being completely broken and why this team has been a struggle as much as it has?
Yeah, that's most of it. I mean, everything struggles with that, right? If you can't block, then you can't run. If you can't run, you're no longer down a distances, and then it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Then you can't block again because now teams can pin their ears back. Stafford isn't mobile, so he's going to throw picks out of that. The only guy who's throwing more picks than Stafford this year is Matt Ryan. And then, look, defensively they're not bad, but they're asked to do everything. So it's all those things. And also, let's also say, too, if the ball's not going to Cooper Kupp, there's just nobody. Allen Robinson's been a huge disappointment. The Rams just need to rebuild, and they don't have the picks to do it. And they don't seem to care that they don't have the picks to do it. They have a lot of issues moving forward.
They do. I think another team has a lot of issues moving forward. Did not make a disappointment list. I feel like I put out there right behind Green Bay is the Colts, because this is a team that going in the year we thought Matt Ryan will stabilize the quarterback position. They're going to win they have a chance to win the division because it's really bad. They're 3-5-1. They have now made a circus of themselves with the firing Reich and bringing Jeff Saturday off of ESPN to be the coach. So, what do you think about what's happening over there?
I think the word circus is apt. Look, everybody talks about Saturday and what does it mean. Sure, we have that conversation, but to me, it's more about what it says. If you're Jim Irsay and you're doing this, you're telling every one of those coaches on staff that they're useless, that they're not a better choice to be an interim head coach than a guy who's never coached above the high school level. And I don't want to hear that, well, Jeff Saturday's played, and that's why. Okay, well, you have Reggie Wayne on staff. Why isn't he the interim head coach? Why isn't Cato June the interim head coach? Well, I mean, you've got guys like Bubba Ventrone who have been special teams coaches for years, can't get a shot. I mean, to me, it just says everything about the Colts that they don't trust any of their own guys in the building. So they're going to go with this outside guy because Jim Irsay on a whim just decided that would be the right thing to do. You're alienating everybody in your building. I talked to a lot of people in the NFL right after it happened who were shocked. And a lot of I had one guy flat out say, I think the only reason they're doing it is they want to lose every game the rest of the year. I don't necessarily agree with that opinion, but I think that it's indicative of a franchise that has no rudder.
Yeah, that's certainly for sure here. I think also, and I think it's also surprising. I know that you were locked down the AFC West in terms of keeping an eye on things here. That division as a whole, so this would be the greatest division in sports. They have all these imports coming in here, and apart from the Chiefs and the lesser to the Chargers, division is largely flopped.
Yeah, look, my big question with the Raiders is always going to be McDaniels. I did not like the hire. I wrote about that at the time. I thought it was a hiring that everybody went crazy about because of his time in New England. He doesn't get to take Brady with him. If you look at his career without Brady, he has been terrible as an offensive coordinator. Terrible. He was not good as head coach. And here's a team that's 2-6, and in 3 of their losses led by at least 17 points. The Broncos, Hackett's a guy who comes in, and you say, okay, well, what do you have? Well, nothing, because he's never had to call plays before in a situation that's worked. Green Bay, he wasn't calling the plays, it was on the floor. He goes to Denver, he's overmatched, he's overwhelmed. I have nothing against Nathaniel Hackett, but I think it's fair to say he might be the most overmatched coach I've ever seen. And then with the Chargers, it's a bad offensive scheme. Defensively, they're still terrible. They have all these injuries. Look, they're 5-3. Maybe they find their way into the playoffs. But for all the excitement around the Chargers this offseason, they look like the same old Chargers.
Yeah, that's certainly for sure here. In terms of the playoff races here, which one intrigues you the most? What are you keeping your eye on here? So this is interesting to me. What do I want to focus in on the second half?
I think the AFC wildcard race. I mean, to me, you've got the Dolphins, the Jets, the Pats, the Chargers, the Bengals. Which of those 3 teams are going to make the playoffs? I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch that unfold. In the NFC, who's going to win the NFC West? Is Seattle going to continue its Cinderella story? It has a game and a half lead on the Niners. I think the Rams and Cardinals are done. The Niners have already beaten Seattle. They play them again in Lumen Field later in the year. Who wins? I think San Francisco, if they win the division, they become much more dangerous. They might have a home game. Well, they would have a home game. They might have 2 home games, depending on how they shake. Otherwise, they're going to have to go on the road. There might be a 7th seed. So I'm very interested to see those 2 races and how they play.
Yeah, it's a very strange year in general. Because, I look at the NFC wildcard picture. Outside of the 7 seed rounds of the 49ers, Atlanta, Washington, the Rams, the Saints, the Packers, the Cardinals, the Bears are all like with game out. This doesn't really inspire much confidence in any of those teams.
No, it doesn't. I think, when I look at the NFC, I feel like I almost already know the playoff field. I think you're getting the 3 from the NFC East. I believe you will. You're going to get the Vikings. I think you'll get Tampa, and then Seattle and San Francisco. I think those are the 7 teams. I really do. I don't know that anybody else in the conference finishes above 500. So I think that's probably what you're looking at. The AFC is much more open. I think Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, and then Tennessee, I think, will win their divisions. But Miami's right there. The Jets are right there. The Bengals are there. The Chargers are there. The Pats are there. And a lot of these play each other. The Pats have to play against the Bengals. The Dolphins will play the Chargers. Obviously, you'll see the AFC East as well as divisional matchups. So there's going to be a lot at stake in a lot of these games. It should be very interesting.
It's really very interesting here, too. And obviously, before I let you go here, we have Week 10 coming up here. It's a little weird in terms of schedule-wise. It doesn't seem like a ton of great games. What are you watching for this week? What's the most exciting games coming up to you on Sunday?
I like the Sunday night game, Niners and Chargers. I think the Niners are going to roll San Diego. I'll call it San Diego forever. I think they're going to roll Los Angeles because I don't think they can stop the run. I think the Niners are going to come out of the bye and run all over them. But it's an interesting game. The Niners are 4-4 for all the love that we all give them. They got to win. They got to win these games. It's at home. It's off a bye. That's an interesting game to me. During the day, you're right. There's not a ton of matchups that you look at and say, "Oh, that's a great game." Bills and Vikings, I think, has to be the game, right? You look at that, and is Josh Allen going to play? Is he healthy? What do you get out of Buffalo? In a game that I think is important for the Bills. Like, the Bills are this runaway 1 seed. Now they're tied with the Chiefs, and they have the breaker. The Chiefs have one of the easiest schedules in football remaining. So the Bills have to keep winning. This is a big test for them.
It sounds like the Munich game is also very fascinating, too, because Seattle obviously is going out to play Tampa, and Tampa right now, they think maybe that win over the Rams sort of rights their ship here. This is a game that they have to get to.
Yeah, it's a really important game for Tampa Bay. You're right. They get that lifeline of a win against the Rams last weekend. I know Seattle's the dog in the game. I think Seattle's a much better team. I really do. I think the only reason that they're an underdog is because it's this whole it's Tom Brady and Geno Smith. Well, Geno Smith's been better than Tom Brady this year. So I like Seattle. I think Seattle's going to go out there and get the job done. Now, granted, it's in Germany. That might throw everything out of whack because it's just a weird body clock game and everything else. But I think Seattle's a better team. I really do.
Yeah, and my other game I just focused here, last one here. Denver, Tennessee, I think is fascinating here. I think Denver off the bye, sort of circle the wagon spot here. Tennessee, I think, is vulnerable. This game off an emotional loss against the Chiefs on Sunday night where they just put everything they had in that game and find a way to lose that game. I think if Denver's do anything second half, they have to get this game.
Yeah, Denver's schedule's brutal. They have the Chiefs twice. They still have to play the Chargers. They have the Titans, obviously, this week, as you point out. They have the Rams on Christmas. They have a lot of hard games. But, yeah, it's interesting. I got to tell you, I don't think Tennessee's given up more than 10 points in this game. Denver can't score. They just cannot score. Now, Tennessee may not score a ton either. If you're a bettor, you might take the under in this game. But I'm with you. I think it's an interesting game. I like Tennessee to win it, though, at home.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it. Before I let you go, how can people follow you on social media, keep up with the NFL coverage over at FanSided?
Yeah, check out FanSided.com, read Mike's great work and the rest of the NFL team. You can check me out at Matt Verderame on Twitter, Verderame. I'm on there way too often. Stack in the Box podcast. You can follow me there on YouTube or on iTunes, however you want to do it. And then all my work as well at FanSided.com, all of it getting tweeted out. So go check it out.
Absolutely, Matt. Thanks for all the time. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks a lot. Take care.